Hello everyone and welcome to the Blockchain Startup Show. I'm Avan Dabash. In this brand new episode of the Blockchain Startup Show, we're going to be speaking about how the world of gaming has evolved drastically. From clunky game controllers to state-of-the-art graphics and powerful processors. But the next step in gaming is Web3 gaming, which includes emerging technologies in the realm of blockchain and integrating it into the gaming world. Web3 gaming is based on decentralized distributed ledger technology that offers transparent and secure user control over gaming assets. And today on the Blockchain Startup Show, we bring you a company which thrives on pushing the boundaries, disrupting the status quo, and bridging the gap between Web2 and Web3 communities. Presenting SGG, a Web3 gaming accelerator and incubator company by SGC. SGG combines proven game studios to leverage the unique powers of decentralization, community, and creative potential that Web3 offers. They recently completed their first game offering called Tearing Spaces. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the CEO of SGC and SGG, which is the gaming arm of SGC, Matthew Graham, as well as Ian Whitcop, the COO and Head of Investments for SGC, to the show. Ian and Matthew, thank you so much for joining in and welcome to the show. Now, I want to get in both your perspectives on the same. Matthew, I'm going to come to you first. Begin by telling us, since we're talking about gaming, I'm just curious, are you guys gamers at all? And what are some of your earliest memories of gaming?
Sure thing. I think there are many different types of gamers. So for me personally, I'm pretty obsessive about my interest in the game Go. And of course, that's different from what we think of with computer games, but I think it's all kind of starts from the same instinct, whether it's chess or League of Legends or whatever a person happens to be most focused on. It's all the same basic human instinct. For me, this dates myself a little bit, but some early memories of games that I liked included Frogger and Tetris. I know that dates myself a little bit, but those are some that I liked as a kid.
Right. So Ian, let me get in your take on the same.
Vaughn, great to be here. So for me, my earliest memories are I was a Magic the Gathering player. I used to love the strategy of designing your own deck, and then sourcing your cards and iterating on the deck concept time after time to make sure it was a good fit for kind of the metagame and competitive with other decks, and then ultimately competing in tournaments where I got to see where all this hard work went. Then in the early 2000s, Magic the Gathering largely moved online, and I played a lot there as well. From Magic Gathering, I went into, I think like a lot of kids at the time, went into StarCraft and Warcraft. Warcraft Frozen Throne is hands down one of my favorite games of all time. It's kind of the perfect combination of strategy and fun, in my opinion, with great replayability. And then finally, now and almost continuously since 2016, I play Pokemon Go every day. And now we have Tearing Spaces, so it's been great to have that on the roster. Kind of the themes that unite all these are great lore, strategy, replayability, and community.
That's pretty interesting. That's when you guys started off with gaming. But Matthew, it would be interesting to understand a little bit more about SGG. Tell us more about it as well as its genesis.
Sure. So at SGC, we invest in a variety of different blockchain projects all around the world. But one thing is clear, which is that Web3 gaming is going to be an essential pillar of our industry. And in fact, we're at a catalytic point for the development of Web3 gaming. In fact, more than 40% of all games that have ever been produced of the Web3 stripe will be introduced in the next 12 to 18 months. And this industry is projected within 10 years, Web3 gaming specifically, to be more than an $800 billion industry with a compound annual growth rate of more than 65%. So first of all, it's important to understand we invest in all different types of blockchain projects.
Now, a question for the both of you. And Ian, what made you double down on Web3 gaming at a time when funding has slowed down a little bit for Web3 games?
Sure. For us, the thesis of Web3 gaming, it never changed. Being able to add a layer of ownership and NFTs and other digital assets into a game is an absolute game changer. Just imagine Pokemon Go with NFT ownership of the Pokemon that you catch, for example, as digital collectibles. I mean, my screen time would probably 3x from what it already is. The problem was that a lot of early Web3 games were designed to highlight the blockchain aspect of the game, and that came at the expense of the playability of the game. And as Matt noted, some of the economic models didn't prove sustainable as well, like play-to-earn, for example, wasn't very sustainable long term. So we looked at creating and funding games that were fun first, and then included Web3 aspects or elements second. And then second, just more generally, I do think that gaming is probably where we see mass appeal or mainstream success for the blockchain ecosystem and start driving Web2 folks onto Web3 rails. It does feel inevitable at this point. So of course, building and funding games that we think we can be successful. And then certainly when we saw a gap, we looked at making our own game or kind of building our own game and tearing spaces. That's fun, ultra playable, and is sticky, has sticky Web3 aspects.
Matthew, what's your take? Why, enter into the Web3 gaming space at a time when things are clearly petering down?
Gaming is going to be huge for our industry, number one. Number two, through our extensive Asian relationship circles, we happen to have very strong resources in the gaming sector. And number three, being a participant on the builder side, gives us a unique ability to leverage resources from venture to gaming and gaming to venture, back and forth each way. So it really is a unique value proposition for us as an industry player, and we really look forward to continuing to double down on Web3 gaming.
Now, Matthew, even with Web3 games being the major transaction driver on chain, the number of gamers are still very minuscule compared to Web2 games. Do you think that Web3 games have a distribution problem?
Sure, I think it's absolutely a great point. The numbers are still very small. In my opinion, that is due to a couple different factors. Number three, the friction is still too difficult. It's still too much hassle to be able to participate in Web3 gaming versus being able to just kind of plug and play at this point for Web2. That's especially true for people that are non-technical in nature. Number two is the bar. We're still not quite meeting the bar industry-wide in terms of being able to have games that are at the very least as compelling as Web2 games. I anticipate that that will change within the next year or two, where we will have games at least as fun to play as Web2. And those friction points will slowly be reduced to the point where it's just as easy or almost as easy to participate in Web3 gaming as Web2, number one, and to where, in fact, slowly we don't even think of it as Web3 gaming. We just think of it as cool features and functionality that are enhancing gaming experiences that we love. And underneath the hood, it'll be crypto and or Web3 technology, but that won't even matter to the gamer, him or herself.
And Matthew, what do you think will be that one critical event which will actually lead to mass migration of gamers from Web2 to Web3?
Sure, I think that's possible. Certainly a big breakout game of a Pokemon type would be enormously compelling in terms of making the Web3 gaming value proposition salient. That's definitely a possibility. It could be a Farmville type event where suddenly it became clear. That's definitely a possibility. The more we continue to reduce friction, as discussed, and the more we continue to build good games that are fun for all kinds of different people to play, the more likely it is that we'll have that breakout hit, which will then have a halo effect for the entire Web3 gaming industry and, in fact, the entire crypto industry.
Okay. And now, Matthew, the play-to-earn aspect of Web3 games was marketed very heavily in its early days. Do you think that has maybe given a bad reputation, done the Web3 gaming community more harm than actually doing good?
I think it's hard to say. Certainly, we continue to need iteration on different types of token economics concepts for Web3 gaming. Ultimately, play-to-earn failed because of flawed token economics, and also because, again, the games were not fun enough. with higher quality games and continued innovation on the token economics front, it's possible that play-to-earn will have a resurgence in a modified way.
Got it. On that note, let me take a quick break. On the other side, we will continue our conversation with Matthew as well as Ian. Welcome back. Still tuned into the Blockchain Startup Show. This week, we're in conversation with Matthew and Ian, talking about SGG being a Web3 gaming accelerator and incubator created by SGC. I want to get in both of your perspectives up next. And Matthew, what role do you see India playing in Web3 gaming?
Sure, India is an enormously important market for us. As of course you know, it's not only the world's most populous country, but it's one of the youngest countries in the world. And it's one of the countries with the highest predominance of enormously talented engineers in the world. Additionally, within just a couple of years, it's projected that more than 900 million people in India will have access to mobile internet, and there will be more than 700 million gamers. We could not be more excited. It'd be impossible for us to be more excited about the future of India in general, and specifically to our industry.
And Ian, your take as well, given that we are at the forefront of technology, what role do you see India playing?
Sure. So anecdotally, I can tell you firsthand that some of the most passionate Web3 gamers are from India, and they're probably on our team. India is interesting because it's a mobile-first Web3 economy. I truly do think that the battleground of Web3 gaming is going to be mobile. A lot of reasons for kind of the mobile first, including kind of the data rates and loaded data prices, plus just like the huge amount of mobile penetration in India. I also think we'll see our first distribution breakthroughs for Web3 games, like pre-installs and things like that happening in India. We do see many regions and governments that have already been incredibly supportive about supporting kind of blockchain technology. And we think they'll probably be supportive of blockchain games or Web3 games as well. And finally, just building games and having very strong builders on a weekly basis. On the venture capital side, we get to see the quality of Web3 builders coming from the India ecosystem, building games and infrastructure and really looking at how we can expand the Web3 gaming ecosystem 10x.
Right, and Matthew, would a mobile-first game make more sense for India, considering we have better mobile penetration, we've got cheaper data rates as well?
We definitely agree with the assertion that a mobile-first strategy makes sense in India as well as many other markets. To your point, cheaper data rates and the mobile penetration. Of course, it depends on the type of game. With certain types of AAA games, that really doesn't make any sense. But if you're really aiming for a mass market game, then you need to be able to have mobile as an important pillar of your strategy at the very least. And frankly, you probably want to go mobile first.
That's right. So I want to get in a sense from you, Matthew, as to what your experience has been like with incubating, launching Tearing Spaces. What has the experience been like up until now?
Sure, it's been amazing. We've already seen great examples of the synergy that we anticipated between the venture side and the gaming side. It's enormously enhanced our understanding of gaming, which helps us make better investment decisions. Additionally, it's led to better deal flow. And further, insights driven by our venture team, we've been able to incorporate them into our gaming strategy as well. So we're super excited about how things are working out so far. Ultimately, we view ourselves as entrepreneurs at heart, and so we love to be building.
You know, I want to scratch that point a little bit further, Matthew. Can you delve deeper into Tearing Spaces? Tell us a little bit more about its traction as well.
Absolutely. So Tearing Spaces is an open beta currently. We've launched NFTs on Polygon. We've got a very vibrant Discord, and we're super excited to be working with SGG in India. Additionally, by the time this airs, it'll probably be announced. Just in case it's not announced yet, I won't say any names, but it'll probably be announced that we're on one of the biggest e-commerce platforms in the world. So even though we're in open beta, at this phase, people are super excited about how fun the game is. and we can't wait to continue to take it to the next level.
And finally, Matthew, what are the future plans with SGG?
So our future plans are to keep building SGC, to keep building SGG, to build cool games. And in fact, if your question is about future plans for SGG specifically, we're actually doubling down on this concept. We're increasing the vision, and we'll have some cool announcements about additional games, but also additional scope, being involved with things like NFT ticketing and digitizing collectibles. We'll have a lot to say about that in the coming months.
All right, with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's a wrap on yet another episode of the Blockchain Startup Show. I want to thank both Matthew as well as Ian for joining in.
So we look to continue to double down on Web3, on blockchain, on gaming, and really appreciate Avant being here and telling our story today, especially as discussed, India is such an important market for us. So thank you so much for your time. And thanks everyone for listening today.
Thanks, Vaughn. It's great to be here. Always great to catch up. And, we feel really strongly about the Web3 gaming thesis, so much so that we actually decided to build our own game tearing space in that vertical as well. And excited to see how that does and onboard folks to the game.
Well, up until now on the Blockchain Startup Show, we saw how the internet is evolving, and we're clearly in the middle of it. Web3 is the only internet space that's getting bigger and better each day. In the journey so far, we brought you companies that highlighted the technically brilliant blockchain startups in the hope to provide a more tailored, intelligent, and autonomous browsing experience. Let's take a look at this recap.
We're speaking to tech giants, speaking to gaming companies and publishers, but the timing was starting to become very critical for achieving the kind of infrastructure where you could build games and virtual worlds of arbitrarily large size, supporting hundreds of thousands, if not millions of concurrent users in single simulated virtual worlds. As such, it made a lot of sense to continue my work that had been about 20 years plus in the making and set up a company dedicated to solving the problem of scale, of low cost of use, as well as of performance and so on, in order to make these worlds possible.
We're solving for the problem of compute scale and simulation scale that has sort of constrained video game developers for the last 10 years plus in the industry. And as the metaverse has grown and is growing, the size of the simulation that will need to be supported is far in excess of what's currently possible on the infrastructure that's available for today.
We've been working on Evertas for over 6 years. So our journey started back in 2015, really around blockchain. My background was insurance and banking, and really understanding how disruptive technologies can impact industries. And as a matter of fact, I even had a conference regarding blockchain insurance back in 2016. And the real focus was around how blockchain would change the overall insurance industry. I would say then, and even more so today, there's a recognition that blockchain and cryptocurrencies were, and I want to argue, are poised to really change financial services in ways that'll be very exciting going forward.
Data storage has really come a long way with many options available for cloud-based solutions and maybe some at-home solutions. I've been working in the space for over 15 years, so I've kind of seen it grow from both an enterprise and a consumer point of view, I guess. And the options really range from big companies, that are, hosted out of Silicon Valley, like Microsoft, Google, or Dropbox, to maybe more slightly smaller, more boutique vendors that have particular strengths. And some of these limitations might include security concerns, high costs over time, or limited storage space, or worries about your data not being owned by you. So our drive is really designed to address these different limitations by providing a decentralized storage solution built on top of the Arweave blockchain. Our drive is an easy-to-use app that lets anyone upload, download, or share their files forever.
Blockchain insurance, the key success factors might be something like the ability to educate both for customers and policymakers about your product. At the end of the day, the purpose of insurance is risk transparency, mitigating the financial impacts of potential risks. An entrepreneur's job is to help policymakers understand how blockchain insurance can fit into a regulatory framework, how they make customers safer, etc.
And with that, it's me, Avan Dabash, signing off.